bem, muito boa tarde a todos e bem-vindos ao segundo webinar da Upstream Innovation Week, promovida pelo Pacto Português para os Plásticos. Antes de começar, explico o formato da organização da sessão de hoje. A sessão é composta por uma apresentação do orador, que é seguida de um período de perguntas e respostas. Na parte de perguntas e respostas, os participantes poderão colocar questões ao orador. Os vossos microfones encontram-se desativados. Iremos ativar os microfones dos participantes que pretendam colocar questões no período de perguntas e respostas. Ontem verificamos que a função levantar a mão não está disponível nesta versão do Zoom que estamos a utilizar e, portanto, para solicitar a vossa participação oral, pedíamos que escrevessem a palavra questão na funcionalidade bate-papo. Caso prefiram, podem colocar a questão por escrito também na mesma funcionalidade. A sessão de hoje será em inglês. As abelhas constroem favos para proteger o seu mel. Os bichos da seda tecem um casulo de seda para se protegerem durante o seu estágio de vida mais vulnerável. Inspirada pela natureza, a Mori usa a proteína da seda para criar uma camada protetora que é invisível para os nossos sentidos e mantém os alimentos frescos por mais tempo. Esta abordagem e tecnologia inovadora permite evitar que os alimentos sejam desperdiçados de forma sustentável e levar mais alimentos para as famílias e comunidades em todo o mundo. A tecnologia da Mori corresponde à aplicação de uma camada protetora que retarda 3 mecanismos principais que fazem com que os alimentos se estraguem: a desidratação, a oxidação e o desenvolvimento de micróbios. Na sessão de hoje, da Upstream Innovation Week, intitulada Innovative Elimination, o Laith Abu-Taleb irá apresentar e explicar esta inovação disruptiva da Mori, que permite, ao mesmo tempo, diminuir a necessidade de embalagem e combater o desperdício alimentar. Laith, thank you so much for being here today, and please, I pass on to you for your presentation.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Pedro. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time here. I do want to also thank, of course, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation for really spearheading the efforts in highlighting food and plastic waste, as well as the Portugal Plastic Pact. Very, very excited to be here and very excited for the work that everybody here does. It's very important. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Of course, this is informal, so please feel free to interrupt me, ask me any questions. I will be monitoring the chat function as well, so please let me know. I'm happy to ensure that everything works out there. Currently sharing my screen. Let me know if everybody can see what I can see.
We are just seeing half, I think, of your screen.
Apologies, 1 second. Can everybody see my title slide there?
No,
perfect. Great, thank you very much. Great, so again, please feel free to interrupt me. I'm glad everybody's here, and above all, I wish everybody the safest holidays coming up. I hope everybody remains safe and with their families. My name is Laith Abu-Taleb. I'm here on behalf of Mori, really to talk about our shelf life extension technology and how that helps reduce plastic waste, reduce waste in general, and reduce greenhouse gases. Over 1/3 of food around the world is wasted, yet we have a pretty major hunger problem in every single country in the world. Wasted food is one of the top 3 contributors to greenhouse gas emissions around the world. If we stop food waste, we stop that greenhouse gas emissions. And so there's really a lot of reasons to really focus on this as a globe. If we all focus on this problem, I think it really benefits everybody in the supply chain. What we do as a company is we directly address why food goes bad. Food goes bad mainly for 3 reasons. It's gas exchange, it's dehydration, and it's microbial growth. Eliminating those mechanisms of degradation is really what we do. Through our natural and edible protective layer, we are able to reduce all 3 of those mechanisms. What we do starts with silk. The same silk that you wear, the same silk that you purchase, really we take one of the proteins from the silkworm cocoon, which has been consumed around the world, Through a very simple process using only salt and water, we are able to isolate the protein of our choice. That protein is then extended onto the outside of fruits, vegetables, candies, meat, you name it. Doing that creates a barrier, creates a cocoon, if you will, around the food itself. And if you think about really, cocoons are there, they're there to protect life at a very delicate state between the silkworm as well into the moth or into the butterfly. And we really just try to replicate that process. Above all, our company is built on transparency. We really believe that food companies especially should be transparent. We really play with something very sensitive. We don't take lightly the fact that we are in the food sector. I think it would be much easier on our minds when we go to sleep at night if we were not in the food sector, but we really take it to the utmost importance that we remain transparent, we remain safe, that everybody knows really what they're eating when we place Mori silk on top of foods. What does make silk protein special are three major things. One, its universality. We are compatible with the majority of foods and surfaces. Hydrophobic surfaces, hydrophilic surfaces, we're talking about wet fruits, dry vegetables, etc. We do deter microbes as well. We change the surface structure on the outside of the food. Doing so enables the food to be less friendly to different microbes that cause degradation in food. Silk, I should mention also, is made up of mainly four major amino acids. Those are the same amino acids that exist in chicken, fish, meat, and anything else that we consume on a daily basis. Because of that, we really are quite safe. And so we wouldn't be in business if we are not safe. We do have self-designation of GRAS, generally recognized as safe here in the US, currently going through our European approval process as well as approval processes around the world. Japan, Mexico, Canada, and China are our first sort of beachheads. How we implement our solution is quite important here. We do view ourselves as a very disruptive company in a disruptive industry. That said, we try to be as not disruptive to our partners and our customers. We really try to implement our solution at any stage in our partner supply chain there. That means before packing, our product does integrate into pre-existing wash or processing or sorting steps. We do not sell custom deposition equipment. We exist on harvesters. We exist on in-wash steps, on conveyor belt lines. We essentially enter into your factory and make sure that what we can do, you can do also with as minimal of a lift as possible to the actual customer. As mentioned before, we are effective across category. So we are able to apply on meat, seafood, whole produce, cut produce, as well as CPG, consumer processed goods. Some of these are my favorite, and I'm going to highlight a few soon. As mentioned, we really do add value to all stakeholders across the supply chain. The number one easy thing to think about is just reducing waste. If you extend the shelf life of a food, you are less likely to throw it away. And when I say you, I mean the consumer, I mean the business, I mean the retailer, I mean the shipper, I mean the insurance company. Everybody along that supply chain will reduce waste there. As far as packaging, what we try to do is be able to enable biodegradable options here. Instead of having to package your candy bars or pears or bananas or apples or anything like that in plastic, you're able to do so in a very biodegradable fashion using compostable materials, recyclable materials, because we ensure that shelf life. We are able to extend that shelf life to a point where you don't need that plastic. On the logistics, we really do add supply chain flexibility here. Rather than air freight, we can move to ship to sea freight. Rather than not densely packing trucks, for example, you can densely pack trucks. I'll talk a bit about the truck and the freight systems in a second, but essentially what happens, the majority of shippers and processors will not fill up the entire crate or in the entire truck with all the food and vegetables that they could because it heats up. And heating up causes degradation. If we apply post-harvest but pre-freight, we are able to pack those trucks to capacity, meaning less trucks on the road, less cars on the road, more food in different places, really to be able to sort of expand that. As far as access, we're in the business of really increasing food access to people around the world. I grew up in Jordan, in the Middle East, Jordania. There were seasons where we didn't have certain vegetables and certain fruits. I really didn't know why. until I really came to Mori and really understood the supply chain here. You know, one broken shipment, one problem in a cold chain breaks an entire market. We are able to ensure that it does not break that entire market. We are able to ensure that food can get to everybody that needs it. We are also able to add new SKUs and add new products to existing farmers, right? So a farmer would love to be able to ship from their tiny farm in some place to a further destination, or another item, whether it's cut value, cut produce, to add value add to their fruits, vegetables, or whatever else that they have. And we're able to have those new markets and increase new product combinations there. A few pictures. There'll be more pictures coming up as well. We have seen, as mentioned, results on a wide variety of foods. Here, as you can see on kale, veggie noodles, these are zucchini noodles. These are some of my favorite, mainly because they are a niche item, at least here in the US. It's quite a new item. Zucchini noodles, as an Arab person myself, I grew up eating stuffed zucchinis, never had it in sliced form like this, but it's quite the rage here, at least. And the retailers and the farmers that we speak to have a problem with understanding how much to put on the shelf here. Shelf life is quite bad. And if anybody has purchased some of these from a retailer, they also understand that the shelf life is quite bad. If you're not planning on cooking it that day or the next day, you're kind of out of luck there. Cherries, we've really shown a reduction in pitting and dehydration, maintaining that stem greenness. We've done so on ground beef, minced beef, same with fish, and really same with candy. Candy is quite an interesting example here, mainly because we never really seem to think about the shelf life of candy. Candy exists for pretty much for a long time. But really what we can do here is help enable biodegradable options. So rather than the aluminum coated or aluminum lined plastic, reusable, non-reusable single-use plastic, we can have that be paper because we take care of your shelf life. We take care of your humidity area worries, right? So we make sure that the moisture stays where it's supposed to be, and there's no water from the outside into the inside of the candy, or vice versa, to enable companies to reach their sustainability goals and really enable them to be using paper or other biodegradable options there. Would like to go into some additional pictures here. What we try to really strive ourselves on doing is not only making sure that you have that rock hard avocado on your counter for a long enough time, but it's that the inside is fresher for longer. That's our real goal here. And so we don't totally freeze, if you will, the degradation process of your food. What we do is we slow it down. It goes into hibernation. So there still is degradation. You don't have an unnaturally rock hard avocado on your counter for months and months at a time, but essentially the inside remains fresher for longer here, just because it takes a longer time to get there. This also enables retailers to maintain it in storage before they go into the ripening chambers at the retailers, at the farmers, at the processors, growers, shippers, etc. Leafy Greens. Here's one where I spoke a bit about the example of long distance freight. Big problem across the world really in ensuring that leafy greens are not packed to capacity in different freight applications. We are able to make sure that that does happen. So rather than having 3 trucks on the road getting the same amount of kale from point A to point B, you can have 1 using our technology. As you can see here, we exposed baby kale to very harsh freight conditions, breaks in the cold chain, etc. And as you can see here on the left side, at least left side of my screen, hope it's not mirror imaged, or else none of these words would make sense to you all. So here on the left side, as you can see, still fresh, still green, no wilting, no rot, no yellowing. One thing I like to always discuss is pomegranate arils. I think this is one of the, I like showing off silk, and this really makes me very proud of what silk can do, the actual technology. As you can see here, pomegranate arils are notoriously difficult to keep fresh for a long period of time. They are wet. They are very much a very prime location for microbial growth to occur. Using Mori silk, we are able to even keep something as wet, hydrophilic as pomegranate arils fresher for longer here. As you can see here, this is 3 days post-processing. The 3 days post-processing with Mori, we are able to keep that fresher, drier, significantly reducing purge. But not only are we appearing fresher, right? The mold growth and microbial growth is also more impressive. So we were able to show mass loss here, so no degradation, water retention is there. But really here is what I think is the most impressive thing about the Silk platform, is our ability to reduce that mold growth, reduce that microbial growth upon application. It's sort of the same with zucchini noodles. This is what I spoke about a bit earlier. As you can see here, this is just a zoomed up picture. This is day 19. We actually, I personally ate these right after this picture from our little photo booth in our offices. And obviously you cannot do that to the control. In fact, you couldn't do that to the control about 16 days before this picture was taken. And so really we are able to extend that to help reduce that food waste, ensure that retailers are able to stock their shelves with value-add produce like this, enable the farmers to sell more zucchinis, enable new products on the market while reducing food waste and really the greenhouse gas emissions that happen from food waste here. We are a youngish company. We've been around for a little over 2 years. We've been busy over the course of those 2 years. We have 18 granted patents. We have 3 live provisional applications, 24 utility applications. We're protected in about 19 different countries around the world. Actually, that's 20 as of yesterday. And so we do ensure that we have a very solid IP portfolio here, really protecting all bits of our platform, such as the shelf life extension on the packaging, the stabilization of active ingredients, and applying pre-harvest as well. When it comes to packaging, I want to talk about that a little bit here. The same barriers that we do create on food items can be created on paper and compostable plastics, just to improve their performance as well. And that's still in the early stages of development in our company, but it's something that I'm excited to sort of dive into over the next couple of quarters here. I do want to take up a lot of time for questions and answers. I have a number of slides here also with additional pictures if people would like to see more. But my name is Laith Abu-Taleb. I'm the General Counsel and Vice President of Mori. A bit of introduction about myself. My background is in bioengineering, bachelor's and master's from the University of Maryland. I then went on to law school and did patent litigation for quite a while in licensing. And I handled the regulatory, the intellectual property, and really the long-term strategy of our company. And I would be delighted to sort of answer any questions if anybody has anything. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. It was great to see all these examples. So now let's open the Q&A session. So please, if anyone has any question, please feel free to put them on the chat. I'll just switch a little bit to Portuguese. Se alguém tiver alguma questão, por favor, pode colocá-la por escrito na funcionalidade bate-papo aqui no chat, ou então poderá colocá-la oralmente também aqui. Ok, já temos aqui uma questão. We have right now one question. I'll read it for you. It seems a good solution to extend the shelf life, but it's hard to imagine how to use this solution to eliminate packaging.
That's a good question. So our goal is to have the packaging be that edible barrier, right? So it doesn't necessarily eliminate it, it replaces it. And so rather than having your food item, I think grapes, at least here in the US, are sold quite oftentimes in plastic bags. You don't have to have that plastic bag anymore. That could be a paper bag. And that's how that works. And I'm happy to actually share a slide here. I should have kept my PowerPoint open, my apologies. On grapes, which I think shows pretty well there. So my apologies. Let me share the screen. Here we are on grapes. As you can see, at least in the US, again, grapes are sold in plastic bags. Using our technology, we are able to keep that fresher for longer. The problem is with grapes is that they bruise. And so that's why, you know, when you have fruit salads at conferences such as these, when they were in person back in the day, you really only have red grapes in your fruit salad. You really only have certain items there because of the bruising, because of the mold growth, because of the degradation. We are able to reduce those plastic packaging and enable green grapes to really reach their potential and be packaged in different ways and be packaged in different products, such as fruit salads, for example.
Thank you. We have Susanna that wants to talk. Susanna, I think you can.
Yes, I believe now you can
hear me. Yes, we are listening.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Laith, for this very interesting presentation. So I'm Susanna Fonseca. I'm from an environmental NGO, just for you to know. So when I see your presentation, one of the questions that, of course, arises is the health aspect of using this kind of solution. And also, Rui has already asked one of the questions that I would like to ask, that is, in terms of being approved for the European market. I mean, has this been done? What kind of, let's say, tests, what kind of information can you provide us in terms of the safety of this solution, I would say? I was also quite interested, because I have a background in sociology. So in terms of public perception, do you have any kind of studies, any kind of insight on how people perceive this kind of treatment of food? Something you cannot see. You can see a packaging, but you cannot see this. So it can be quite well, controversial, I would say.
Sure.
Also, sorry, I'm putting a lot of questions so that I only speak once. One other thing that came to me while you were presenting is that in many of the examples you were giving, it seemed to me that they were based on a model that sets on long distance traveling, on providing, for example, I thought the pomegranate and having it available in that form. I mean, I would never imagine to buy such a thing. I mean, it's kind of a model for highly, I wouldn't say highly processed food, but it's not what sometimes, well, at least in the environmental movement, defended as a role model for the future in terms of the connection between the consumer and those who produce their products, etc. So this is more like a challenge to you, just to have your opinion also on this, because this is something that came out of for me as a reflection, as an idea out of your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Susanna. I really do appreciate them. I'll address them in order. So on the safety side, no, we are not yet approved for use in Europe. We are approved for use in the US. We are approved for use in Japan. We are approved for use on consumer processed goods in Mexico. And we are working on our food contact notification in Europe, as well as our entire EFSA approval in Europe as well. So our safety data, we ensure that we are so the regulatory process for food, as you all know, is quite different than the regulatory process that we're hearing about as we speak for, say, vaccines. We really think that food regulatory process is the most important thing in the world. And so we, when it comes to medicines, for example, that stays on the top shelf, that's in your medicine cabinet, that maybe has a child-proof lock on it or something like that. When it comes to food, that's accessible to literally everybody that you have ever met and everybody that you will ever meet. Because of that, we really focus as hard as we possibly can when it comes to food safety. We have done every study under the sun to ensure that we are safe. One of the benefits of our technology is that it has been consumed around the world, the fibroin protein at least, especially in different East Asian countries where Bombyx mori silkworm are consumed. That's where the name of our company comes from. Bombyx mori is the silkworm species that we utilize, or at least we utilize the cocoons. Because we are made up of essential amino acids, it makes it easier from certain aspects, and it makes it a little bit, for us, our studies are as important to us as really anything else. So what we try to do is gather the most impressive expert panel as possible and file with the FDA, and that's public, and I'm happy to share our GRAS dossier with you all after this call. But yeah, so when it comes to safety, there's very little in the world that is more important to me personally than the safety of this product. Regarding the consumer perception of our product, so we have done quite large consumer tests in the States as well as elsewhere. At least here in the States, we did an N of 9,000 study, all 50 different states. And the vast majority of responders did say that they would be very excited to see a product like ours, or not see actually because it's quite invisible, but really excited to see a product like ours be implemented. They also said that they would enjoy companies that utilize us because they would be reducing plastic, increasing food waste, etc. And so really there's a double-pronged approach there, which is quite exciting to us. Regarding the long distance travel, you're absolutely right. So the model here is to increase food access. What you're talking about on the pomegranates, and I 100% agree with you, is that value add produce. So that pomegranate farmer who didn't really think about this is able to add a new product to their line, right? That retailer is able to add a new product to their line. And so by us enabling new products, we also reduce food waste in that sense. One of the problems that we first encountered during our initial research and scoping phase was that, sometimes to a farmer, a trash can might be their friend, because I would buy double the amount of bananas because I'm throwing away half. We are ensuring that that's not really the case here. You're able to take your bananas to new markets. You're able to take your pomegranates to new markets, further destinations, reduce shipping costs, reduce freight costs. But not only that, but you can also open up your pomegranate. You can cut your watermelon, cut it in half and sell it, cut it in thirds and sell it, sell prepackaged goods, sell value add produce there where there's some labor intense effort. But the shelf life dramatically decreases when you break open the peel of a food item, right? When you break open that barrier on a watermelon, shelf life will dramatically decrease unless you add Mori to it. So we enable those new product lines to really assist farmers and growers in taking their products to the heights that they think that they can reach. And let me know, Susan, if I answered that question correctly, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have here a lot of questions. I'll put two together because they are similar. If it's about Mari silk, if we have to remove it before we eat it, if it has taste or not, and if you have any studies regarding long-term human ingestion of silk protein. Is it something that happens traditionally anywhere on the world?
Good questions. So to respond to Manuel on the long-term human ingestion of silk protein, there are studies that exist out there that we've benefited from on human consumption of silk protein in general. We are also able to buy the Bombyx mori silkworms that people consume here at neighborhood grocery stores in the States. And so there have been consumption for a very, very long time. Bombyx mori silkworms are thought to be the oldest domesticated insect in the world since about 5,000 BC. Because of that, they were really reared for their silk. A lot of Bombyx mori silkworms out there, and so people started consuming them. So we do have long history of human consumption of our protein. To answer the, sorry, Cristiana, if you want to play MC, but I'm happy to answer the next questions.
Okay, it is about if we have to remove the silk protein before we eat it, and if it has taste or not, and about temperature and humidity. It can be used in any condition.
Great questions. We do not have to remove it before consumption. You could remove it. It is water soluble, but you do not have to remove it before consumption. If somebody would like to, they certainly can. But the goal here is that it is an edible coating. It is tasteless. You cannot taste this, and that's another pretty large consumer test that we've done. You cannot taste it, you cannot see it. It doesn't cause tackiness, it's not sticky. You really have no idea it's there. It's quite similar to the waxes that are on the outside of apples, for example, in different countries. So with that, no, you cannot taste it or see it, and you could wash it off if you'd like, but you certainly do not have to. Regarding the the conditions of temperature and humidity there. Silk has the silk, the way that we formulate it really has a great WVTR rate, the water vapor transmission rate. What that means is that it keeps moisture where it's supposed to be. So if moisture is supposed to be on the inside of the food, like a cut watermelon, for example, it'll stay there. If moisture is supposed to be on the outside of the food, say a chocolate bar that you don't want to melt in the hot heat or humidity outside, it'll stay there as well. And so we ensure that that sort of water vapor transmission rate remains low, so that, but not zero, of course, because you don't want to really stunt the fruits and you don't want to have that, again, rock hard avocado on your counter for a long enough time. But we ensure that it's slow enough so that there still is that natural breathing of the food item, but in a much slower way, and so that the moisture stays where it's supposed to be there.
Thank you. I think you have answered another question that is here. So yes, I'll pass to another that is, if Mori Silk, how can you assure that 100% of the product that we want to protect is protected? Like the technology, what you can do to assure it?
Good question. And just so I understand the question correctly, are we talking about the, if we say coat half a banana or 3/4 of a banana, does that banana still, got it. So we've done numerous studies there. So again, our goal really is to ensure that we are not annoying whatsoever to our partners. So we want our partners to be able to apply our silk in a very ordinary fashion on their end, which does include, for example, imperfect coating. As you can see from kale, and I think kale is a good example, the leafy greens, they are quite varied in surface texture and surface size. Their stems, the stems often are enclosed within themselves, and so there is part of it that is not really exposed when you say spray that or dip coat it or anything like that. Despite that, we are able to see major shelf life results. So really, if only a portion of the, let's just say a banana is treated, the banana acts as a single unit there. And so the breathing and the moisture diffusion and the oxygen rate between the inside and the outside of the banana will always remain lower, even if you coat, say, a certain portion of it and not the entire thing. Of course, our goal is to coat the entire thing because that's where you see the most value. But if there are, say, spots that are uncoated, that spot will not degrade on its own. It'll still operate as an entire system, if that makes sense.
Thank you. I don't know, Rui, if the questions are okay, if it's answered, if you have another one. Please, if anyone has any other question, feel free to answer. We have one here. This practical case study of innovative elimination was born from the research for a solution for a problem or from the search of a problem to be solved by a given technology?
Love that question. It's a great question. Thank you, Rita. Our technology really was born from partnerships between Tufts University and MIT here in the Boston area in the US. Silk has been used for a long time on medical devices. Most sutures, most stitches are still made with silk fibroin, which is our same protein. A lot of medical devices are used with silk fibroin, are coated with silk fibroin so that they're more biocompatible. So among us, if one of us here has an artificial hip, you probably have some of our protein inside of you, or at least it was at some point. For the lab that we're talking about, so there was a silk lab there still is a silk lab at Tufts University filled with very smart people in the world of silk. They were a nice little origin story here, really playing around with aspects of silk, including sutures and medical devices there and vaccine technology, actually. They had a potluck. One of the professors dipped a strawberry in a beaker of silk and left it there over the weekend by accident. He came back, the strawberry was not rotten, but the others were. And that's really the birth of our technology there. That was the eureka moment. From there, we really thought about what is it in the silk that really enables this? How did this happen? Was it lucky? Repeated the study, a billion times to make sure that was not lucky and it wasn't just a crazy super strawberry that did not degrade. You know, with our results, we really determined that we are reducing that OTR variable, which I think Rui asked earlier. We are reducing the WVTR, the water vapor transmission rate. Doing so will increase the shelf life of foods. Is this a problem? We spoke to the USAID, we spoke to University of California at Davis, one of the best agriculture schools in the world, and really determined that it truly is a problem. There is a lot of money that is being spent on yield, on increasing yield, on making sure that your apple tree grows more apples, for example. When we spoke to certain farmers, we were speaking to one farmer in Senegal with the USAID, and they were saying that, you know, yield is important, but I have nowhere to put my food. There are breaks in the cold chain. I don't know where to put it. So if just because there's more yield doesn't mean that I can do more things with my food. And really that conversation got us thinking that what we have on our hands is a solution that affects all members of the supply chain here. We're all stakeholders here, even as consumers, it affects us. And so it sort of, you know, got us thinking quite rapidly and, you know, joined forces, and then came the birth of Mori there.
Thank you. Great story. We have here one last question, I believe. How much cost does Damari silk add to the products in percentage, for example, in Leafy Greens?
Good question. The answer there really is highly variable. It's highly variable on when we apply, it's highly variable on how much we apply, it's highly variable on the formulation. We do not see, our partners do not spend more money using Mori silk. It is really the short answer there, because of the cost saving reductions that we have when it comes to fewer trucks on the road, when it comes to ability to go further, when it comes to shifting from air freight to sea freight, when it comes to less expensive cold chains because breaks are all right, when it comes to insuring your products with, you know, produce insurance that costs a little bit less because you are applying our edible coating to it. So really our goal here is to have a negligible, if anything, really a cost saving measure on the companies in our stakeholder line there. And I hope that answered the question, Tanya.
Thank you. So does anybody else have another question? Please feel free. We still have a little bit of time. Se alguém ainda tiver alguma questão, por favor, esteja à vontade para colocar. Ainda temos algum tempo.
Maybe I'll just jump in for a very quick question. Your expectation to have Mori products in Europe. So you already applied for it to be possible to be used in Europe, but you have any expectation? Can we see Mori in Europe in 2021?
I hope so. I really hope so. I think, as you all know quite intimately, EFSA does take quite a bit of time to review our applications. And so we are looking to file our application by early 2021, and then really see either towards the end of 2021 or early 2022 is where we can start massively contributing to the European system there.
That's great news. If anyone wants to jump in, please feel free. And if no one has any question, thank you, Laith, for this great presentation and this dynamic Q&A session. Thank you to all the participants that made it possible. If you want us to leave us with a final message, Laith, please feel free to do it.
Just really want to thank everybody, not only for your time today, but I think everybody on this call is probably very excited about reducing plastic and reducing greenhouse gas emissions around the world. And I think if this room is 10 times the size, that's even better. And I think we all have different solutions here. And really, we all are interplaying with one another to solve the same problem. And really do want to thank everybody for, again, not only their time here, but for their interest and their passion in solving this problem that affects us, our future grandkids and their grandkids as well. And so really do want to thank everybody for their time. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, please do feel free to reach out. It's just laith@mori.com. And I do believe there was another question here. Let's see.
I think it's just a comment.
Got it. Understood. Perfect. No, thank you, Rita, for that. And again, really do want to thank everybody for their time. Any questions or information, please do let me know. Obrigado, and I hope to see you all soon in tomorrow's talks.
Obrigada, thank you. Just switching a little bit to Portuguese. Obrigada a todos por estarem presentes em mais uma sessão da Upstream Innovation Week. Vemo-nos amanhã com a sessão da Loop Reuse Return from Home. Até lá. Obrigada. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Rita.